Hi, welcome to EDSC 551, Legal and Ethical Issues. This is week 6, and we'll be discussing cyberbullying and sexual harassment. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, so uh, cyberbullying and sexual harassment. So there's two types of sexual harassment. And the first one is a hostile environment. Hostile environment occurs when unwanted sexual touching happens. Comments or gestures are bad or occur so often that it interferes with schoolwork and makes a student feel uncomfortable or unsafe at school, or prevents a student from participating in or benefiting from a school program or activity. So this type of harassment does not have to involve threats or promises of benefits in or exchange for sexual favors. The harassment can be from your teacher, from school officials, or other students. Quid pro quo is a sexual harassment, means something for something else. So, where you get sex in exchange for a higher grade, or when a school employee causes a student to believe that she must submit to unwelcoming sexual conduct in order to participate in activities that will make the educational decision based on whether or not the student submits to the unwanted sexual conduct. So these three elements have to be present in order for sexual harassment to be a claim. The behavior is sexual in nature and at least related to the person's gender. The behavior occurs in unequal relationship where one person has more power over the other. So it has to be something of power in exchange, physical, psychological, or authoritative or other. And the behavior is unsolicited or unwelcome. Some examples are making sexual propositions or pressuring students for sexual favors, touching of sexual nature, writing graffiti of sexual nature, displaying or distributing sexual explicitly drawings, pictures, or written materials, performing sexual gestures, or touching oneself sexually in front of others, telling sexual or dirty jokes, spreading sexual rumors, or rating other students as to sexual activity or performance. So we see this when we see high school students having a rating scale of people and putting names and numbers with a key that is explanatory. So this is something that we've seen on movies, but obviously if you've seen this on a movie, it has happened in real life, and this could be an issue. And this would be peer to peer more than likely. And circulating or showing emails and websites of sexual nature. This also is considered to be sexual harassment. So the role of a school counselor is to advocate and empower and serve as an anchor and a source of strength for individual students who are dealing with these type of sexual harassment issues. One of the most important things is to recognize that you never know if it's true or not true. And so we never want to unassume or consider or think that someone is crying wolf, because they could have cried wolf like 3 times prior to. And then this time they have had some sexual harassment, and then we don't follow through in detail with the claim. Also, each individual act should be reviewed individually. So that's another important factor. So if you feel like you're being biased because you work with this student on multiple occasions and that student has been untruthful with you, you want to make sure that someone else that has less experience with a student helps or reviews the information so that your biases don't come into play when making the decision. We want to follow all protocol, making sure that we follow through before we make a determination that the claim is unfound or there's no additional consequences needed for that other student. Because if that student is being sexually harassed and like I said previously, the student has not been it hasn't been found factual, but now this time it is factual. We want to make sure we have all the appropriate documentation and that a team has reviewed this, not one person is in charge of this. Educators need to promote a safe and respectful school climate for all students by providing students with the knowledge and support they need. School counselors are a part of that. And it's imperative, right, that we are in that. Here's some court cases involving sexual harassment. Franklin and Gwinnett County Public School in 1992, the Supreme Court decided that out of the violation of their civil rights, students were victims of sexual harassment, had the right to seek monetary damages from their school district. This was a major step taken by the Supreme Court, where before this decision, compensation was not up for grabs. So this is when compensation came into play in 1992. In 1994, when a judge ruled that school district was not liable for sexual harassment that occurred when a fifth grade boy allegedly made attempts to inappropriately touch another female student. The case made its way to the Supreme Court, and in 1999, the Supreme Court decided that once sexual harassment among peers had been reported to the school district, they must be held responsible. So again, this is something where the documentation is important. And it's highlighted in this case that where the expectation is not that, this is a fifth grade student. So we aren't thinking that students of that age would be involved in this type of activity, but we can still be held liable for this behavior. And then we have in 1996, when a sixth grade girl was sexually harassed by some of her male peers under the Title IX, she was able to file charges against their school district teacher and assistant superintendent and received compensation for those damages. Ultimately, the school district was made aware of the situation and felt that they failed to address it, and they were found liable for that incident. So again, these are situations where we need to make sure we have all of our documentation in play. And if we don't have our documentation, and it needs to be a team decision, like all the information, the student should be interviewed by multiple people that are on the team so that, and then the principal is responsible for sending the information to the district office and making sure that the district office is aware of the claim in case there are other consequences. Bullying. School counselors contribute to schools' academic success by fostering positive school climates. So, having a comprehensive school counseling plan helps the prevention of bullying, harassment, violence, and other interventions such as conflict resolution. So, when you have a foolproof comprehensive school counseling plan, all of these come into play. So, it's been difficult for school counselors to formulate or have a comprehensive school counseling program. Most of the schools that are smaller and have less activity occurring are able to get to these comprehensive school counseling plans. The rest of us have been triaging most of the events or just kind of focusing on the important parts for that district. For example, in high school, maybe the focus is on getting the students to college and academics, but then the focus is all on the academic. But what about the social emotional? What about the college and career? So if we're focusing on everybody has high GPA, so then we might be doing the college and career, and we might be doing a high GPA. But what about the students that don't fall in that category? Like they may not have GPAs that qualify them for college. Then how are we preparing those students? Because those students still need to go out into the workforce. And so what programs are we putting into place for those students? So in 2016, the ASCA revised the position statement of the school counselor and promoting a safe school environment through conflict resolution and bullying harassment prevention. The school counselor includes prevention programs as part of their comprehensive school counseling program to ensure that these programs include training, key skills, and peaceful resolution. Some of these are communication skills, conflict resolution skills, decision making skills, developing a cultural a system or a climate of cultural competency, accepting differences, intervention strategies for bullying and harassment, recognitions of early warning signs for violence, prevention and intervention services, and crisis response, appropriate use of technology and social media, community involvement, parent and guardian and faculty education, evaluation of program effectiveness, and building positive staff and student relationships and mental health and training and bystander training. So again, this is my 27th year as a school counselor, and I am building this comprehensive school counseling plan as well as all of the schools in our district. And having been there and as a counselor for the last 25 years, um, this is something that we have not had. So as we move forward, this is where school districts are going to avoid legal um, issues when they have this comprehensive school program, because you can show where you have trained and given these skill sets to the whole school, and included students in these programs, and that the student also has received the appropriate discipline if need be for any of the actions that they may have had. And then this will help us with our legal our lawsuits that are coming across the district. All right. So that pretty much concludes our my slideshow for those chapters. And this week you have your freedom of speech assignment that is due on Sunday, and I will be seeing you again for our last and final class, week 7 on Tuesday. Thank you. Have a good evening.